What if Russia invaded Poland? As we are currently witnessing on the world stage right now, Russia is no stranger to invading other countries. For over a month now, the world has been watching as Russia continues to advance their troops through Ukraine in a full-on invasion of the country. This invasion over Ukraine is obviously an act of war and something that has been condemned by most of the other major world leaders on the planet. This invasion of Ukraine was something that was seen coming for quite some time though. We've went into depth on this channel in the past about the deep history that Russia has with Ukraine and how that played into their desire to invade. It was also pretty easy to see that Russia was going to do this, considering they moved over 100,000 of their troops to the border before they actually did the invasion, so that was pretty telling. Either way, this was something that the world sort of expected for some time. Russia invading Poland though, now that would be something different entirely. Looking at a map of Europe, we can see that Poland is the neighbor to Ukraine, and if Russia wanted to take all of Europe as their own territory, it would probably be the next logical country to get attacked. Now granted, right now, Russia is a little bit far away from attacking Poland. Currently, if we assume that their attack on Poland would resemble the attack that they have on Ukraine with a plethora of ground troops, well, then they have an entire country still to conquer in Ukraine, and attacking Poland now would be kind of crazy. So at the very least, I can say with somewhat a surety that Poland won't be getting attacked by Russia in the super near future. But is it on the horizon, and what would actually happen if they did? iNews has a great article where they discuss the possibility of Russia invading Poland. An excerpt from that says, Poland is a member of NATO, and NATO uses a system of collective security whereby its independent member states agree to mutual defense in response to an attack by an external party. This means were Russia to attack Poland or another NATO state such as Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania, it would then be at war with all 30 NATO members, including the UK and US. Russia knows this would be incredibly risky, as while Russia's forces are strong, they would be dwarfed by NATO's collective power. NATO's core task is to protect and defend all allies, NATO Security General Jens Stoltenberg has said. There must be no room for miscalculation or misunderstanding. An attack on one will be regarded as an attack on all. This is our collective security guarantee. However, it does not completely rule out Russia invading Poland. It is also likely to be high on the list of ideal targets for President Putin, in part because many of the weapons being supplied to Ukraine by the West are going through Poland, and he would like to shut off this pipeline. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken told ABC News, "Is it a possibility that Putin goes beyond Ukraine? Sure, it's a possibility." Karen von Hippel, who was a non-political senior advisor at the US State Department during the Obama administration, told NBC President Putin could potentially target non-NATO nations in Eastern Europe, such as Moldova and Georgia. He added that if the Russian leader starts to slowly expand his empire, there are going to be several other places that are in NATO that are going to be getting extremely stressed out. It's very unclear at this stage that anyone can convince Putin to do anything other than what he wants to do. So let's break down what all of that means. Basically, Poland is helping Ukraine out a decent amount right now in their fight with Russia. This is something that Russia doesn't like very much and might lead them to want to fight Poland. Poland, however, is also part of NATO, and therefore attacking Poland would mean incurring the wrath of all the nations that are part of NATO in some capacity. This is a significant deterrent for Russia and would make it very hard on them to be successful in their invasion. But, and maybe most importantly in all of this, Putin has an agenda that no one is fully privy to, and maybe he's okay with just going balls to the wall and taking the risk. So with that being said, even though I said earlier in the video this probably won't happen anytime soon, that inherently assumes that Putin is going to act how we expect him to act, and that may just not be how the chips fall. So what would happen if they actually went through with this? Well, it obviously depends how the invasion is launched. If Russia starts bombing Poland like crazy, then that will change the response from how they would respond if Russia launches an infantry invasion. Let's assume that Russia captures Ukraine and then without delay just continued pushing into Poland. Well then, and I don't say this lightly, Russia may well be starting World War III. The Sun writes, unlike Ukraine, Poland is a NATO country which stands for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The treaty states that if one member state is attacked, then all others must come to their aid and fight alongside them. Some NATO members have already issued an Article 4, including Poland, which means that all members must discuss the risk of a Russian attack. This means that if Russia or any non-NATO country were to attack Poland, then every member of the organization would launch a counterattack. There are 30 members of NATO, including the UK, the US, and Germany, with many others waiting for recognition. Ukraine is one of the countries waiting to be allowed into NATO, but Putin had previously requested it was denied membership. While many countries have been supporting Ukraine, they have avoided military action where possible. If Russia moved onto Poland, the military action would be automatically offered, meaning the UK would go to war. So, if Russia decided that they wanted to attack Poland, whether they bomb them, invade them, cyber attack them, or whatever they do, they will be dealing with all of NATO. That's why, even though Putin would most likely love to attack Poland, and then Germany, and then all of the European countries, it will be very hard for him to do so considering the sheer strength of NATO. Once again, we don't know if that will deter Putin considering he is a little bit of a wild card. But even though he's a wild card, he probably inherently understands he would be at a significant disadvantage. Also, because this outcome is decently unlikely, it's hard to say how other countries would react to this move from Russia as well. We know that the NATO countries would step in, but what about other countries? China, for instance, is probably the most notable exclusion from NATO and would likely have some role to play in a massive World War III. Hopefully though guys, best case scenario is that none of this happens at all and we never need to find out how it would all play out. But please let me know in the comments down below what you think about all of this. Do you think Russia could actually attack Poland at some point? Or do you think Ukraine is as far as they will go? I'd also love to hear your thoughts on the invasion of Ukraine as well too, so please comment it down below. Also please hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host Nicholas Playlog, and I'll catch you next time.